Welcome to another episode of We Don't Die, where my goal is to give you evidence that although our bodies will disappear, we survive physical death. When we aren't afraid of death, we are less afraid of life. From these episodes, I aim for all of us to take more risks in life, go after our dreams, have great relationships, and a lot of joy in the process. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain, author of the book We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And today on our show, we have Judy Taylor. Judy, who likes to be called Jude, is an intuitive who helps people help themselves. Judy and her husband John embraced a holistic approach to life many years ago when Jude went on to study holistic counseling and then completed her diploma of holistic healing. It was through their mutual desire to help others that they created a business called Positive Signs. Positive Signs helps people help themselves. They help people embrace themselves. They work with Reiki, energy balance, intuitive guidance, self-awareness, stress management, meditation, journal writing, spirited walks, and much more. Judy has an innovative and creative approach to support clients as they discover their own unique potential. Judy is also the author of the book called Mum Moments, Journey Through Grief, which is available in both paperback and the ebook. So I'd like to welcome Jude Taylor to We Don't Die Radio. Hello, Jude.
Hi, Sandra.
How are you?
Oh, I'm great. It must be evening over there.
Well, yes, it is right now, approaching
Yeah.
7 p.m. where I am in Massachusetts. And where are you?
I'm in Melbourne, so it's early morning here. It's 9:48 a.m. on a Friday morning.
In Melbourne, Australia. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I love with technology that we're able to communicate. It's my Thursday and your Friday.
So do I. It's absolutely amazing that I guess it just shows what you were talking about, that connection comes in so many different ways.
Yeah, and our messages are universal, and I think that we both and we all deal with human beings, and it's just I don't know too much about you, which I'm kind of glad because I can meet you the same time our listeners can, but I do know that you have a lot of love in your heart and you're out to make a difference with people in this life right now.
Yes, most definitely.
Hmm.
I just love making a difference, and I think being able to connect with people and share who we are, the humanness that you're talking about, because we're all living this life and having a human experience, which can be a roller coaster at times. So,
No kidding.
yeah. And my passion is for myself, and what I practice is to learn to ride the roller coaster, experience it, and still find a way to come home to my heart, whatever's
Right.
happening in my life.
And they do say the one rule you have to always abide by on a roller coaster is keep your seatbelt fastened.
Sometimes I think it's good to undo the seatbelt.
Oh, well, Jude, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Because, thankfully, I don't know too much, so it's kind of like meeting a new friend right now. A little bit about your story. Were you always a person that was interested on the holistic and intuitive side, or did it happen one day? And certainly, I know you have a story to share about your mom. And
Yeah.
where do you want to begin?
Oh, where do I begin? I guess,
Yes.
being one of the things in life and talking about that roller coaster is as we grow up, we develop all these patterns in our life and experiences, and some we like and some we don't, and along the journey we learn all sorts of different things, and I very much came to a space in my life actually about 20 years ago where, or actually it's more than that, when I met my now husband, John, where I was working in a pretty high-powered job, and I met him and loved the creativity in him, and much to everyone's surprise, or actually it was my surprise really, I acknowledge now, I quit my job.
What kind of job were you in?
I was in a marketing job with a car company
Uh-huh.
in fleet management. I've had quite a journey through my life with jobs and things, and I look back now and realise that the reason I worked in sales and marketing and did quite well for different types of organisations and with projects and like selling cars, which really wasn't on my radar at all, was because it was my intuitive knowing. I would embrace something and I would look, feel the picture and just find a way. And I've spent
Wow.
so much of my lifetime doing that. So I recognise, well, I didn't go to uni, but I actually didn't need to, because how I learn is I'm intuitive. It comes to me, it comes through me, and it's been a great thing to embrace in my daily life rather in different aspects of my life. So, yeah, it's an
Did you
amazing
always
journey.
did you always know you were intuitive, or did you have some signs that really made you want to learn
There,
more?
many times through my life I can look back and I can recognise, wow, that's why I felt the way I did. And it's like a knowing. I just knew, however, the life I was living, what I knew didn't seem to fit in. So I think a lot of people who have experiences being intuitive, and really every human being has it. However, it's not something we learn in school.
No.
Unfortunately, from my perspective, you know, we get that yes feeling, no feeling. Someone will ask you a question and you get the answer before they finish the question.
Right.
It's very powerful and you get a very strong yes or no feeling, and you can feel it in your body, you can feel it in your heart and soul. And so often we try and work things out. Someone will ask you a question and you can just see their head and all the voices in their head
Mm.
trying to work it out.
I know those
Whereas I,
voices very well.
whereas if I said to you, why did you write your book? What was the first answer that came to you?
Um, I've told my story so many times, but I want to help families heal.
Yeah.
And it's the
Hmm.
grief part of my book that is as much as I love sharing about life after death, and I think it's important.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many families that have been destroyed through grief,
Yes.
and there's been lives that people have taken their own lives because of grief, and to help educate people and give them a belief and help them heal.
Yeah.
What's your answer?
Uh,
I know
I
I'm
wrote
interrupting
my,
you.
that's fine. No, I know my answer. When my mum had her massive stroke, one moment she was dancing on the floor with me. She left just before midnight and went to go to the toilet, and she had a massive stroke. And at that moment, I was in total shock. And I wrote for me. I wrote to connect with my mum.
Hmm.
I wrote because I could feel her. I could feel the essence of who she was. So I'd sit in the park opposite the hospital and I'd write. I'm having a picnic lunch with my mum because I could feel her. And I wrote for me. Well, actually, I wrote for Mum first. I wrote because it was my way of communicating with her. But as I continued to write, I realised that I was writing for me. And as the writing continued and I started to share some of the things I was writing, I realised it was for everyone. So I knew that I needed to share what was coming through me to help and support others just like it was helping me.
Yeah, just like intuition is not taught in schools, either is grief.
No.
And it's interesting because it's something that every single human being faces.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but before my dad died, I had lost my grandmother. Certainly in the past, I had lost pets and things. But
Yes.
when Dad passed away, that was the most painful experience I ever had. And I'm always happy-go-lucky and with a smile on my face. And I just turned into this dark, angry, bitter, sad. Either I slept too much or I didn't sleep at all. Either I ate too much or I didn't eat at all. The repetitive thoughts in my brain, the misery, and like I said, the darkness was so severe that like I didn't even recognize that person. And so
Yeah.
thankfully for me, that's what had me go on the search that this has to be something else. I mean, there must be a reason for this, and it's all part of the world of grief.
Yeah. And that's the thing you're talking about. If grief isn't out in the open, it's really like other experiences in life. You know, there's so many books out there, being happy, being this, being that. And if people are picking up a book being happy, then why are they doing it? Is that because they're feeling happy, or are they
No.
feeling unhappy?
Oh,
Are they looking for something? All these things have like a message in that I believe that we are made up of a variety of feelings, and that we need to allow, to be a whole person, we need to allow all those feelings. Whatever feelings come up, they're all like signs. If you feel fear, there's a reason. And to actually embrace that fear, to embrace the feeling rather than push it away, you actually take the power away from that feeling. If you push feelings away, you give them the power. So, you know, to know real joy, you have to have experienced pain. And if you're not willing to feel that pain, it takes over you. And the more what you resist persists, basically. So if you resist all those feelings, they surface, and if they're not going to surface through you being able to express yourself, then they will find a way to manifest in your body. That's my experience and what I believe. So for me, it was very surprising when after my mum died, all the different feelings that came up, because I totally believed from talking to her and the experiences we had that we were connected energetically, and that also I held her hand when she was in the hospital, and before they took the life support off, all the breathing apparatus. For me, she'd already left. I've read a lot and I know a lot about near-death experiences and things, and I knew for me she'd already left. It was only what they were doing in the hospital that was keeping her breathing. So for me, I was so surprised, sitting there saying, choose what's best for you, Mum, and feeling in my heart and knowing that she had already left. I was not prepared for the feelings that came up the day after her funeral. I went into a total state of, I can't believe she's not going to walk up the driveway.
right.
I can't believe this. And for 2 weeks it was like there was this thing in front of me. I was in so much pain that I didn't want to feel. And I broke the cycle 2 weeks later when I went out to lunch with my husband, and I needed to go to a ATM to take some money out.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have gone to one much closer, but I just got a very strong, you need to go to Brunswick Street in Fitzroy. So we hopped in the car and we drove there. I left my husband down the road and I went to take some money out of the ATM, and I turned around to walk back down to where he was having a coffee, and I got cross the road. I'm thinking, I don't want to cross the road, and I got cross the road. And I walked across the road and walked straight into a healing centre, and I just broke down and sobbed. And this lady took me under her wings, and I was going through the process where I just didn't want to feel all the things I believed up till that moment. So you were just taken completely by surprise with your experiences. And it's really important in my experience, and that's with mum moments, is you write what you're feeling at the time. And when you actually allow yourself to feel, the feeling passes. It's a bit like the waves come in and the
Yes.
waves go out. Waves come in and the waves go out. If you put up a brick wall, the waves will smash it down. It'll find a way.
Oh, that's a visual, isn't it? The brick wall and the waves. You
Yeah.
brought up a
Yes,
couple of things. I don't want to interrupt you.
yes, no, that's fine. I was just
Okay.
going to say, I can feel my mum here while
Oh,
I'm talking to you. I feel that presence. I feel her in me sometimes when I talk. And it's
that's
just beautiful.
and I believe too that my dad is supports me on everything I'm up to as well, that he gave his life in the way he did because I would have never met you right now without my
Yeah,
dad having a big part of it. But there's
yeah,
two things that you said that I actually wrote down. When you said when we like if fear comes up into our life, if we push it away, we actually give it strength. And I didn't
yeah,
like that, but it makes a lot of sense because it'll come back like that wave and it'll come back stronger and stronger and stronger. And with I think any emotion is what you're saying, if we can just be with it,
yeah.
and even if it is the fear, do you think when we're feeling fearful and if we're with that fear that we can gain some strength and actually become courageous out of it?
Oh, most definitely. I feel one of the things is what happens with any sort of feeling is, and I was talking about the power you give it, it's a feeling. If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can, simple example, come home, the house is a mess, the kids have left stuff everywhere, dishes haven't been done, there's mess everywhere. I can walk into the house and I can go, oh my God, I can't believe this mess. Why doesn't someone clean up, blah, 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 blah. And I can guarantee the response from anyone who's here won't be particularly good. Or I can walk into the house, look at what's here and observe my feeling. I'm overwhelmed. Acknowledge my feeling first. Observe my feeling. I'm overwhelmed. And feel it and make a choice in how I respond to it. The first reaction I was talking about was actually losing the plot and going, oh my God, clean up, why doesn't anyone clean up? The second response, I actually make a conscious choice. I'm aware of the feeling and I feel it, and then I possibly might say, the house is a mess, I would appreciate if someone helps me clean it up. Or it may be that no one else cares, and if I really want a clean house, I can clean it. But rather than the reactive response, which actually gets people to react back to you and becomes an attack and defend process, I've owned my feeling. Does that make sense?
It does. But the thing is, you have to catch yourself in the act because I think you really need a lot of practice to be able to do it automatically. So sometimes I think the feeling comes up, and then you say, "Oh, wait a minute. What did that lady Jude say? Oh, let me observe here,
Synchronicity.
feel
What?
it."
It's the practice. That's the magic word, and I've got that on my website.
Practice.
I practice what I'm talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
practice listening to my intuition. I practice listening to my feelings, observing them, and making a choice that works for me. We are humans, and we're in the human experience. There is so much happening in the world where people are just reacting to each other and struggling so much in relationships. And I mean, I read so many things, and I'm in so many groups on Facebook to do with grief and loss and things, and I hear people saying things that other people have said to them, or no one cares, or they said get over it, or you should be over this by now. And if we take that personally, then we're taking on someone else's stuff.
Right.
And we could actually turn around to that person who's saying, it's been a year, or, it's time to move on, and say, oh, so you feel it's time to move on.
Right.
So you actually give it back to the person rather than take on the other person's feeling. For you in your
Oh, I
heart,
like
this is
that.
part of the grief experience. So
Sure.
you hand it back I had a client come to me once who was going to move to the country, and he was so excited by the choices he'd made of what he was going to do. And a few weeks later he came back in, and the look on his face, and I sort of said, what's happening? Oh, I told my boss I'm moving to the country and going to be travelling to the city every day. And he said, what are you going to do that for? Are you crazy? And I looked at him and I said, yeah, so how do you feel about moving to the country? He said, it feels like the right thing to do. So I said, so whose problem is it? What your boss says? And he went, like a light bulb. Oh, that's him who wouldn't like to move to the country and drive for an hour every day to come to the city.
Right.
In all aspects of life, we so often take on what someone else is feeling, and it's not our feeling at all. So if we can hand it back to them rather than feel criticised or judged, you actually give that person, as well as not taking it on yourself, you give that other person the opportunity to actually acknowledge and observe what they're feeling.
That's great, great, great coaching.
I
Hand
love
it
this
right
stuff.
back to them. Can I ask you, before we go too much further,
Yeah,
why you believe in life after death? Why you believe your mom's still around?
I can feel her everywhere. I can feel her presence everywhere I go. In fact, I feel it stronger than I felt it when she was alive. And I believe that's because I embrace it. I listen. I observe. Sometimes I can be sitting somewhere and it can be simple. This is the thing. I think people are looking for some amazing way to connect or message, whereas it's as simple as I'll walk into my studio and sit down and there's all my books, and I'll just be drawn to a book, and I open up the book and there's words that just resonate for me, or there's a card, or there's a leaf. My mum loved collecting bark and leaves and things, and something that she gave me, or a feather. It's just, I'm sitting on the front porch and I'm tuning into a particular feeling, and all of a sudden a butterfly will fly by. And they're simple things. Or I'll ask a question. I had one very powerful experience because at times I've doubted it myself, and that's part of the journey too. I've had many powerful experiences, but I had a particular experience, and I'll try and keep it short because there's a whole story behind it. But someone, I guess, a human being in life who I hadn't been, they haven't spoken to me for a long time. One day I was out and I was walking with my dog, and I had one of those doubt times, and I said, okay, Mum, I said, sometimes I doubt all this. Can you give me something? Please, just give me something. And she said, I want you to put your hand on your heart and just focus on this person. And I said, why? And she said, you don't need to know. Just for the whole walk, I want you to put your hand on your heart and focus on this person. So I did that. Now, the interesting thing that I was asked to do that was with all these Facebook sites that I'm on, when sometimes the stories I read are so sad.
Yes.
You know, they pull at the heart. And there's so many of them. Sometimes I will write individually to people, and some days I just get, which was something I got, and I feel that that's my mum's guidance. One day I'll sit in bed writing in the morning, and many a time I've got the words for my poster for the day on my Facebook page, and I particularly had this one, you know, I'm putting my hand on my heart and sending love and hugs to anybody who needs it right now. And I'd post it on open groups, and then on groups, closed groups like Grief the Unspoken closed group and things like that. And hundreds and hundreds of people would like it or respond saying, thank you, that's just what I need right now. So on an energetic level, we are actually all connected, and we get messages to share with people. And that's, you know, you can call it a random act of kindness, or you can call it, this is my journey to help people. So my mum asking me to put my hand on my heart for this particular person and just focus on it, I came home and I wrote it down. About 4 weeks later, I'm heading down the coast to stay with a girlfriend for the weekend, and because I did a few family things for my husband and kids before I went, which I didn't need to do but just felt like I wanted to, and I'm driving back from the shops and I'm heading for home, intent on going down the coast, and I got drop in here. I'm keeping names because that's not things I want to share
Right.
with who I was dropping in.
That's
And
okay.
I got to drop in on a person, and I'm actually driving past. So I drove up to this person's driveway and went in to visit them, and I thought, oh, I don't recognise that car. Anyhow, I walked in, and the person that my mum had asked me to put my hand on my heart for was there. And I just got, do not do anything. And I just walked in, said hello, and just sort of stood there. This particular person, who I've had no connection for a long time, walked over to me, put their arms around me and said, it's so nice to see you, Jude.
Wow.
And I'm just going, oh, my God.
Wow.
I believe, Sandra.
Yeah, of course.
So many experiences in my life like that.
I've
I
I
just,
I had a really great couple of experiences just a couple of days ago. My sister had stayed, this goes back a few months. My sister was telling me a story about going to a hotel, and there was a famous actor that she saw by the pool. And I said, well, when was that? Because I was at a seminar at a hotel, and this famous actor spoke at the event I was at. And come to find out, we were both at the same hotel at the same day, not
yeah,
knowing it. This is in Los Angeles, not
yeah.
even close to where I live. And it was interesting because she said so many people were talking to her saying they loved her speech. And she says, well, I didn't give a speech. Well, it's because she looks like me. Well,
Yeah.
just a few days ago, Jude, I was flown to Denver, Colorado to be a guest on a television show. And so the show was actually being filmed in a town called Boulder, Colorado, which was about an hour away from Denver. And I happened to make a post on Facebook that I was there. Well, my sister saw it, same sister, and she
Yeah.
says, that's so weird. She said her and her boyfriend now live in Denver and decided to make the drive to Boulder on that day. And their car was actually parked in front of the hotel that I was staying at the same time. And so they ended up the next day, they turned around and they came back and I got to have dinner with them. But there's some something going on here. There,
Yeah.
there is something going on here. These two remote locations we just happen to be at. And
Happened to be there.
yeah, so like your mom having you drop in, maybe that's my dad's doing, pulling his
Yeah.
girls together.
Yes, it's amazing. And I think the word's magic. There's something going on here.
Mm-hmm.
We are living this life. I believe there's more beyond this world. And again, like I say, whatever God means for you, whatever that means to you, I cannot articulate exactly what it is for everybody else. I know what it feels like for me. I know the experiences I'm having. I actually fractured my wrist a few months ago. I was having an amazing walk along the beach and walking on the rocks and chatting to Mum actually at the start of the walk, because I often chat to her walking along the beach. Because I believe in signs and things, but there's been a lot of things happening lately where I've recognised that, and there's a Facebook page called Signs from Our Loved Ones, which I absolutely adore. I started walking and I said, so give me a sign. And I just got, you don't need signs. And that was very powerful because if we're looking, sometimes we can look too hard to try and find things rather than feel them.
Right.
When you actually feel it, when you're open to experiencing the signs, you will receive them in a way that they can reach you. That's what I believe. That's my experience. And there's another story there. Anyhow, this day walking along the beach, I felt like, because I've been reading Anita Morjani's book about her near-death
Oh, it's
experience,
a
and I've read,
brilliant book
oh,
called
it's,
Dying to Be Me.
yes, I just love it. I read a lot of books, and I have been, and it's the ones that take you by surprise, the experiences or the signs that I think are the most powerful. So I'm walking along, and I actually had a long, long walk, and I got to a point walking on the rocks where I was actually feeling like I was in another world, where it was just like people describe in their near-death experiences. And I'm walking on the rocks, and I just said, as I'm talking, the way I talk to Mum, I said, so why do we have to have this human experience? And within a short period of time after that, I stepped on a slippery rock, and I went down and I landed on my wrist, and I fractured it. And the message for me there was, you need to be here to share your story, to share your message, to help and support others. So I needed to experience the pain, and a lot of people would say, why would you want to experience that amount of pain? But sometimes some of the most painful things that happen to us, including losing someone, is a gift. It may be a gift in disguise. However, the message is there. My mum wrote beautifully. The poem in the front of the book is a poem she wrote just before she died.
Wow.
Now, many a time, I would have loved her to write her book. In fact, how I'm living my life now is how she lived her life. And at times I felt like she could take it so much further. Well, I guess in her own way, through me, it's going further. And I hope that through my daughter, and by me being true to myself and living my truth, that it will be a gift for others.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Now, there's many people, including myself, who
Yes,
have lived with this skeptical mind and the nonstop mind chatter. And one of my big passions is to let people know we are not this mind and this voice that's talking nonstop. But people want to connect with their moms and dads and sons and daughters and grandmothers and grandfathers. And so often we think we need to go to a medium or we need to find, some mega sign like the lights going on and off or who
yes.
knows, something. Do you have any words of wisdom for people that have lost someone that they love and they've been really asking? There's a man I met not too long ago. For 2 years he's been saying, Dad, show me a sign, and he's really disappointed that he hasn't gotten one. And I have a funny feeling like there may be subtle signs coming through that people aren't even aware of. But any words of advice for even to talk to the person? Can we just
Yeah.
start that conversation?
Okay. Would you like to try something with me?
Yes.
Close your eyes if you can.
Okay. This goes for everybody listening?
Yes,
Okay.
everyone listening.
Okay.
This is a simple thing to do, and I practice it. Close your eyes and just focus on your breathing. Breathing in and breathing out. Focusing on your breathing. Aware of your surroundings, whether you're in a quiet place or a busy place. Just keep bringing your focus back to your breathing. Just allowing yourself to sit for a moment, to just be in a space where it's quiet. Allowing yourself just to observe what you're feeling as you breathe. Breathing in and breathing out. Just allowing yourself to sit quietly, breathing in and breathing out. breathing in and breathing out, observing what you're feeling. Every feeling is okay. It's just allowing yourself to experience the feeling, allowing yourself to be in the moment. Just calming your mind, sitting quietly, breathing in and breathing out. Would you like to ask your loved one a question? Any question at all?
Yes. But we can say this quietly, right, to
You can
ourselves?
say it quietly or you can say it out loud to yourself. Just a willingness to ask your loved one a question. And be aware of the first answer you got. Before I asked you that question, before it had finished, there was something that came up for you. There's no right or wrong here, and it's not necessary to work it out. Just whatever came up for you. Did you get an answer, Sandra?
I it's funny. I asked the question. I don't want to say what the question is,
No, that's
um
fine.
but I didn't get an answer, but what I got was just my dad's face like I'm right here with you through it all kind of a thing. Kind
That's
of a
beautiful. See, some people will get a face. Some will get a word. It's different for everyone. But it's taking that time to create that space and be with them. It's like I go to cafes that my mum took me to. I walk in there and I can feel her everywhere. And sometimes I chat or sometimes I'm drawn to something and I know that that's for me. And it could be a book or it could be a little trinket of some sort. It doesn't matter what it is. It's that willingness to connect. And it can happen in all sorts of amazing ways. I'd had clients come to me over the years before my mum died who, I'll give you an example. I had an elderly lady whose husband had died. She was in her late 80s and he was in his 90s and had died. And she talked with such respect about him. She came in for energy balance massage, which is like the Reiki. It's the energy healing massage, which is very powerful. We all have the energy to heal ourselves. Anything I do, anyone with practice can do. It's something I would like to learn in school
yes.
myself. Anyhow, she came in and she had this look on her face, and I said, "What's happening?" She said, "He keeps coming." I said, "Who?" "My husband. When I'm in the garden, he comes." I said, "Yeah." And I said, "So what do you do?" "Oh, I turn away." And I just sort of said to her, "Would you try talking to him?" Not. And she said, oh, I'll think about it." She came back a few weeks later, and she was looking great. I said, "How are you going?" And I said, "So what's happening?" She said, "Oh, he came." And so what happened? She said, "I turned around to him and I said, 'You can come and visit me anytime you like, but don't you ever tell me what to do again.'" And then she talked about experiences she'd had in her life where he had been controlling. And after my mum died, because I'd had quite a few clients, another one whose father-in-law used to come and sit on his chair every time she went to visit. And again, she shied away from it, and I asked her if she'd like to try not to actually talk to him. Again, similar experiences. When my mum died, I wanted that too, like a 2-year-old wants lollies. I wanted my mum to come and visit me, and she didn't. Not like that. And my journey has been discovering that my mum comes to me through our words, like we're talking on the phone now. Mum and I would often, I'd ring her and she'd say, "Oh, I've been feeling you. I was just about to call you." We were connected energetically and through our writing and our words. So if she'd come to visit me like these other people that had experienced it, I may never have written my book.
Right.
Whereas my journey was to write this book. And I didn't know I was writing it for anyone else because I was totally writing it for me. But to discover along the way that my words were healing, that my words gave other people permission to feel and that touched them.
And
So,
for people listening right now, I was the skeptic and I needed proof, and I sometimes I just wouldn't believe someone that would have a story like, I just know she's with me and I talk to her and I listen. Like, I wanted some really hard, fast evidence, like the
yeah,
real thing. And the thing is that this is a miraculous world and a miraculous universe. And if you study how many stars there are in the universe, or something in quantum physics, that we're all made up of energy, that we really, Albert Einstein once said, we can live life like nothing is a miracle or like everything is a miracle. And I ask, if you look, that the possibility of this is real, and no one needs to know the conversation that you're having in your mind with your loved one who has passed. No one has to know that you're listening right now, or that you've closed your eyes and that you're asking the question of your loved one. And I do think that Judy is on to something here, that the more we build this relationship and the more that we communicate, the more that we will get these signs that they are still here for us. Um, and our lives are here to be lived. They're here to give, to make a difference, to help others. Through Jude's book, she's definitely helping others in everything that she's doing. But each one of our paths are very individual, and no one has to know what you're thinking, what you're doing. But what if we all really make the attempt and to have a conversation with our special person, right?
yes, so beautiful. Just, it's practice, like the words you said before. Uh, I practice connecting with my mum every day, and the more I practice it, it's like someone going for a walk every day to keep fit. I or practicing to play tennis or any sport, or studying something. And my study is actually connecting with my mum and finding ways to keep that energy going. Sandra, something that's really come to me in recent times, and it's 3 years and 8 months now since Mum died, is I did mention it before, that I feel more connected to her now than I have ever felt. And without that physical presence, it's meant that to connect with her on spiritual level, whatever people perceive that to be, when they're physically here, in some ways you can take them for granted because you can drop around and have a cup of tea, or
Right.
ring them up on the phone, or go for a walk with them. So that transition from losing that physical connection actually makes the spiritual, the vibrational, the beyond this world connection even stronger. It's like people who lose a limb quite often, or something happens in their life. Someone who's blind can hear so much more clearly than someone who can see. If you're
Right.
missing a particular sense, we have 5 senses, but if you're missing one of those senses, often the other senses are much stronger. I love this stuff, Sandra. My heart just radiates when I share these things. I'm so grateful that my mum introduced me to these different aspects of life, because it's just given me a gift that's is beyond this world.
Well, and it's exciting to me too. I've had a man that was a guest on the show that was a medium, and he told me that my dad is with me, and my dad wants me to communicate with him and really start talking to him and open up the dialogue. And I thought, well, okay, right? But I didn't do it. And so about a month later, this man calls me, the medium. He says, your dad's back with me. He says, you're still not talking to him.
Mm.
And so it gets better yet, because when I was on the car ride back from or to the airport from this being on television in Denver, the woman who is sharing the cab ride with me, she says, "Oh, I've got to ask you something. I hope you don't mind," because she says I'm
I
psychic,
love this. I
right?
love this.
Oh yeah, this is good. She says,
Yeah.
I'm, I'm psychic," and I said, "Okay." She says, "Was your dad's name John?" And I says, "Yes." She says, "Well, he's telling me that you're still not talking to him." And it's so funny
Oh,
because even though that happened a few days ago, like I tried to say, "Okay, Dad, I'm here," but it really does feel like I'm talking to myself. And then what I decided to do is to just type on a blank page in my computer, and just say, "Okay, Dad."
yeah.
What do you what's going on here? And then just allow whatever thoughts came to my mind, for me to just write them, as opposed to, it's so easy for me to think something and then I'm on to another thought. But I thought, well, if I have at least the computer open, I'm writing something down. So I thought, now I still haven't gotten good at it and I haven't been doing it every day. But I thought, well, maybe that's the way, to just journal a little bit and see how he comes through. So it's really
Yeah.
funny when you just did that exercise with our eyes closed, that it was as if my dad was so excited, like he couldn't care less about the question. It was just like, "I'm here.
Whoopee!
I'm here."
Yes. And that's what I love about the whole experience. And again, it's the willingness. Uh, it really is that willingness to just be open and not know how it's going to present. And the writing is such a powerful tool. I was talking to a lady the other day. I was actually going to a workshop at the Apple store with my iPad, and I woke up in the morning and I thought, I don't know if I'll go today, and I got, "You need to go." Okay, I went. I'm sitting there and I'm doing things. I think, I don't know if I'll stay the whole session today. And the lady sitting next to me, as the guy at the Apple store was helping her, and she's on the computer, and he went to show her something, and she said, "Oh, please, please, be careful. I've got the voice of my deceased husband on there. Please don't lose it."
Oh, wow.
I ended up staying for the whole session, but
Uh-huh.
I was there for another hour afterwards because I opened up to her when she said, I said, "I'm sorry, when did you lose your husband?" And she started talking. And from that we started chatting just like we are now. And I got her to do that closing her eyes and breathing because she was in a bit of something she said stirred her up a bit. And it was beautiful. And all of a sudden she's talking about the fact that, and opened up and talking about things that have happened in the last year since her husband died, and she was actually recognising that she's connecting in all sorts of ways. So for me, that was my mum saying, "There's something for you to do today." Yeah.
Wow.
And I love this stuff. I mean, when I did my diploma of holistic healing, I sat in the course every week, and I remember just feeling like, this is me. I love this stuff. So whenever I love this stuff, I know I'm on my journey. It's just, I love it.
Wow. I want to ask you about something that you said in the very
Yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
Um, when your mom passed away, you
yeah,
thought her soul left her body before
yeah,
her
yeah.
body stopped. My dad died, was an incredible amount of pain, drugged up. He had cancer,
Mhm.
and it was just
Well,
unbelievable suffering I witnessed. And
yeah,
someone had said to me, uh, that it's possible that his soul leaves before the body stops, and I'm like, what? Like, I've never even heard of that.
yeah.
And it would be nice to think that he wasn't in there suffering. You know what I mean? Can you say anything more about that? Because I know there's people, and now, when I used to hear people died of cancer, I'd think, oh, that's too bad, But now, after being with someone who died of cancer, I don't wish it upon anyone,
Yeah.
anyone. And so, what can you say about that?
I'm not sure if I have an answer for that. I haven't lost anyone who's gone through a long illness or like cancer.
Hmm.
I guess I'm just trying to feel it in
But
my heart.
can
For me, the the physical body is how we present on Earth. And this is just my experience. It
hmm
may be different for different people.
that's okay.
The physical body, whereas that heart and soul is that lives the human experience with us. I I don't really have the answer. I
Wait,
just know for me that it makes sense, and it just makes sense that that soul, the spiritual part of us, whatever you want to call it, it it doesn't need the physical body to live. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but to you,
no, I
just
mean it kind of does. I just was hoping that my dear, wonderful dad
yeah,
wasn't suffering, and suffering is, I get emotional suffering, and I don't like it, but to see somebody just physically suffering and to try to
yeah,
wrap my head around
yeah,
why do we need that for the evolution of our soul? I mean, why do some things have to hurt so bad?
yeah. Mm. And I haven't got the answer
Uh,
for you.
no. Well,
Uh, why do we? It's that physical. The physical body feels so much pain, and what's coming through to me at the moment is the physical body manifests all those feelings that we don't allow. For me, it feels like in the spiritual, in that soul, on the other side, whatever you want to call it,
mhm.
that everything is in perfect harmony. In this human experience, there's so much disharmony, and in that experience, it feels to me, and I'm just feeling this through, just allowing it to come through, that none of it on the other side matters. However, the human condition is one that at times I can't explain. It's like that day when I said to Mum, if it's so beautiful what I'm experiencing now, why do we have to
Mm.
experience this human experience? And, through that human experience, there's actually a lot of joy and love that comes out. That's what's coming through me now. I feel like it's just we as humans have an opportunity to change the world. We have an opportunity to change our thought patterns, how we're feeling. In simplicity, what I said to you before, I was talking about the fact of actually when you feel your feelings and you're actually really in tune with them, you do not have to react to them. You do not have to put them out on other human beings and cause pain and hurt. I remember, actually, it's just coming to me now, so when my son was about 5, 6 years old, the early days of school, and that was when the Iraq War started, when we went to, the world went to war.
Mhm.
And he's coming home from school saying all these things about, we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and I'm just sitting, I was thinking, how can I help him with this process on what I was feeling? And I said, you know, if your friend Edward hits his brother David, what do you think David will do? And he said, David will hit him back.
Mhm.
And then I said, what do you think Edward will do? And he said, hit him back. And we went on for a while with hitting each other back. And then I said, are they solving anything? And he said, no. And I said, have you got any solutions? And he was able to give me about half a dozen positive ways they could deal with it, including simple things like walking away.
Mhm.
And, and so he gave me solutions that were responding rather than reacting. And I just thought to myself, imagine if in the world more people could actually hear what someone says rather than reacting to it, because we so often react if we feel like we're being criticised. And with someone who's lost someone, having someone say to them, you should be over this by now, your immediate reaction could be, you have no idea, and you
Right.
feel attacked. You feel attacked. Whereas if instead you can be aware of what they're saying and say, oh, so you feel I should be over it, it actually makes the other person stop and say, oh, well, I've heard this, after a year it gets much easier, or I've heard this, or I've heard that. So you actually are not taking on the other person's thing, and you're not hitting back. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And when I'm listening to you, I'm trying on the scenarios with people in my life. What would it be like? And I love it. But one
It
last
takes
question.
practice, though.
Well, this is the question. I'm looking at our time, and our time is
Yeah,
just about up. But I I imagine this world that our thoughts right now give us our actions and our feelings and our emotions.
yeah.
And what would it be like, Jude, to think our own thoughts, like really be in control of what we're thinking? Is that possible? And is it possible that we can practice that and actually shift our thinking? Is that really possible?
Yeah. It's possible, and it takes practice. So it's very much a commitment. In fact, a lot of the things I'm talking about, I've lived them in and out some of my life, being in touch with your intuition, listening to your inner guidance all the time. It's like if you get, you can be busy working and you go for a walk and you ignore it, and your day is full of busyness and craziness. Listening to that voice and saying, okay, I need to go for a walk, and walking around the block, walking out of the office, taking that moment when you're being guided can change your perspective. It can change the colour of your day. The more you're willing to listen to your own inner knowing and your own inner guidance, the more it will come through, and you will make choices that work better for you in your life.
That's really good advice. And I was just thinking just about some things in my life. It's sometimes we're looking for the right thing to do, and we're looking for the answer, and we're praying for the answer. And the real thing is just make a choice and stick with it, and just know that there'll be something that good that comes out of it. Like there may not be the right answer. I've had times that I've had strong intuition, and then there's other times that I'm looking for an answer outside of myself, and even just tuning in and just making a choice. Saying, well, you
Yeah.
know what? This is what I'm going to decide. And then no guilt, no what ifs.
Yeah.
Uh,
I want to change a few words. Be aware of what you're saying. No guilt, no this. You're allowed to feel guilt like we did before, but you observe it
okay.
rather than becoming it. What we need to do is, we use a lot of words like right, uh, there's no right way, or there's a right way or a wrong way.
Right.
We remove all these adjectives that actually control our lives, and we actually allow ourselves. So in many respects, we're removing the control, and we're just allowing what happens. A beautiful saying someone shared with me 25 years ago is, I ask for help and guidance as I continue to follow the pathway for the benefit of my highest good and the highest good of all concerned. So if someone has an experience that you'd say, oh, that's not for their highest good, as I've had moments when I thought losing my mum wasn't for my highest good.
Right.
However, in my life's journey, it's been the most powerful experience on me living my truth. So we have, I guess, people use words. I want this, I'm going to do this, you should do that. In fact, I'll use myself as an example. I've been a writer all my life. However, I've just published my first book. So many times I have met people in my travels, when I travelled through America and Europe, and I met a guy when I was walking in the pub who's published many books. He read my travel diary. He said, you should write. That word should has been in my life for the last 35 years from him. you should write. And I removed the word should and said I'm a writer. So we use words in our vocabulary all the time. You know, I, I could say, I want to be a writer. You need to actually be aware of the words you use about yourself and remove the want and say, I practice writing. You change the way you word things and it makes a huge difference in your life. If people say, there's so many negative messages out there, don't forget your receipt at the ATM when you're taking money out. Don't run. When it's just as easy to say, you know, to a child, walk please, or remember your receipt. When you start becoming aware of the voices in your head and how you express yourself, you can hear those words, don't run, in your head, and at that point, if you're aware of your thoughts, you have the opportunity at that point when it's about to come out of your mouth, don't run, to change the wording and say, walk please. Practice, practice, practice is the magic word. We can all change the world if we practice changing ourselves little by little.
Absolutely. I just have a funny story to share. When I first started doing radio interviews,
Yeah.
I would listen to the interviews and I'd notice how much I said and like and things that weren't real words. They were just space fillers.
Yeah.
And even when I talk to someone, I can pick up when they and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so it takes something to be speaking and catch myself doing that. But I think what you're saying is our thinking works the same way. We can catch ourselves in a negative.
Yes.
And it's just paying attention, not I can train myself to pay attention to the words that come out or the words that I want to say, but wow, what's possible doing that with our thoughts? It seems to me that a whole new way of living can
Yes.
arise.
By self-awareness.
Right.
It can be a simple thing of you, have you ever, I'll speak for myself, I've said something to somebody and the reaction, I'm thinking, that's not what I said. And I can go, that's not what I said, which is actually meaning I feel attacked, and I'm hitting back
Yes.
with, that's not what I said. Or I can stand here and say, are you feeling criticised? Whatever the feeling is I get from them, and they go, yes, you were saying this, that and that. So it actually stops the other person, gets them to think about what they are feeling, and it gives you the opportunity when they've said that to say, I'm sorry that's how you felt. I was saying that wasn't in my intention at all. We spend so much time with our communication actually communicating on the feeling that we're not identifying in ourselves because we hear, we don't, it's like we're not hearing what another person's saying, we're hearing how it feels for us and we respond on the feeling. So you could be making a suggestion, it could be as simple as a cooking style. You might walk into the kitchen and someone's cooking and you say, have you thought of that, or could you do that? Now, we're all human, so we're not, I'm just like everybody else. And the reaction you get from the person is because they're feeling criticised that you're criticising their cooking. Whereas if just one of you, if you could walk into the kitchen and say, I feel concerned that the stove's up too high, rather than can you turn the stove down, which puts it on the other person, and they might feel criticised, and they're saying, oh, you're always telling me how to cook. Can you see how it can happen? But it can be so simple too. It takes practice.
Oh, Jude, thank you so much. Our time has come to an end, unfortunately. You had said before we started, I'm sure we could talk 45 hours, and I think we certainly could. And
I love this.
I do know that you've been a tremendous gift and also selfishly and pleasurably. I've connected now with a new friend, and so I'm looking forward to reading your book. And it's funny, I just downloaded it on Amazon while you were talking. Mum Moments: Journey Through Grief is Jude Taylor's book. I have her picture and the replay of this episode that you're listening to right now, and some of the things about her on we don't die radio.com, so you can look that up. And let me get this right. Is your website, Jude, www.positivesigns.com.au?
That's right.
Perfect. Uh, and you are in Australia. And what else can I say except for you're just phenomenal? Do you have any parting words of wisdom that you feel that you want to share?
Love.
Love.
Yes, come from the heart. Come home to your heart. Whatever way it works for you, it is so important. Through my journey through grief in the last few years, I've come home to my heart, and I listen more and more to me. And when you come home to your own heart, then you can share that love, and it radiates out for others.
Oh, thank you so much. It's interesting because I've heard those words many times, but I've never really let them hit home. And if we can all really listen to our heart and not be looking for what's the right thing to do, what's going to look good or bad to other people, what we should or shouldn't be doing, but start with yourself and the feeling. And I think too that's when the intuition's going to arise. Um, but it all starts from within. And you've been a beautiful gift, Jude, and even thinking about the communication with your mom and me with my dad, and well, let's face it, many of us have lost a loved one, and to be able to
Yes.
know they're okay. Do
Yes.
you believe you're going to see your mom again?
I have no idea how it's going to present, but I know it's going to present.
Oh, okay. So I'm
I,
just curious.
again, as I said, I just know in my heart, I know there's more beyond this world.
Mm.
How that unfolds it is an experience that I look forward
Oh,
to.
thanks. Thank you so much. Well, to Jude, thank you for being here. For our listener, thank you, and I hope it's been of value. It certainly has for me too. There's a lot of great nuggets that we got out of this conversation, but one big thing too is, some of us are going through some stressful times and very tough times. And if we can just use Jude's thoughts that it might be a gift in disguise, really might be a gift for us. And it's all happening for our highest good. Well, again, everyone, I thank you for listening. You can go to we don't die radio.com and check out past episodes. I'm your host, Sandra Champlain. I really do believe that life is an education for the soul, and your life here is important. So start with yourself and listen to your heart, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.